Goals are to develop this young core. You know, it was Joel's first time in the playoffs. It was Ben's first time in the playoffs. We talk about adding a third superstar. We might have that third superstar in this room right now, and fourth. Like, we have that much talent. They're young, but we have that much talent. So just development and getting farther than we did.
All right, so Zach, you heard Brand talk about all the talent the Sixers have. How much pressure is there on him in this new role?
I mean, the next 18 months are big for them. He's talking about if they're going to get that third star, that third big salary before Ben Simmons gets presumably a max. It starts to get mechanically a little harder, although they do have trade assets like Miami's pick. It starts to get mechanically a little harder, just like slide a Jimmy Butler, slide a Kawhi in there. So we're starting literally now with Jimmy Butler. It gets interesting.
But do you think the pressure is really on Elton Brand in that regard? So I think Elton Brand is very well respected throughout the league, both as a player and I think now as a front office guy. But I think, you know, Brett Brown was in this role for this interim amount of time. We know that Josh Harris is a super hands-on owner. So to me, this is more of a consortium that's going to make these decisions. So I think Elton gets to walk in here, and I don't think there's a ton of pressure on him. By the way, I think that's excellent. That's an excellent way to bring him into the front office. I think he's going to be a really good GM.
Everybody does.
I mean, it's an interesting position to be in. It's because they have that salary slot. There's been so much attention on, like, oh, why didn't they get a big name player this past summer? Who are they going to get next summer? On most teams, if you had someone like Joel Embiid, who is a bit of a once-in-a-lifetime player, Ben Simmons, who people are saying he's the next LeBron James, and by the way, Markelle Fultz is also the #1 pick from last year, and we can discuss in a minute how that may or may not turn out. You wouldn't sit there and say, oh, this is a team that really needs a big star. But that is sort of the die that's been cast for Philadelphia in some ways.
I haven't understood that. I really like Saric a lot, too.
Yeah.
Saric is really good. Look, on the one hand, you're right, because everyone branded this summer like a failure for them. Oh, what a big failure. They didn't even get Bjelica walked away from them. There's no failure right now.
Weird, by the
when
way.
you have, it was very weird. There's no failure when you have these two guys. However, if you want to win a championship, if a third guy is not always a prerequisite, but really helps, and you only have so many chances to get one. And so I understand why people are like, you know, why not? If we can, why not?
I mean, it really speaks to the pressure of Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics. That little bar at the bottom, how much pressure is there on Elton Brand? Pressure is kind of coming from Boston, right? The whole point of having these two exceptional players is to at least get out of the East and make the finals, right? Take a shot at a ring. And when you've got just down the road, up the road, right? A stocked team that's so crazy.
Deep team. Yep, very deep,
like the Celtics
team.
have. I mean, that's sort of what creates that pressure, too. I do want to talk about Markelle Fultz because #1 pick last year, only appeared in 14 games during his rookie season. Obviously, one of the more unusual storylines we had last year in the NBA, which is saying something considering the storylines we had last season. He is speaking for himself now, which I always appreciate. Take a listen.
I knew that I got drafted #1 pick for a reason. There was a lot of things going on about changing shots and all this and that, but for me, I'm a hooper, so I was like, man, this ain't gonna stop me. So people really didn't understand. They thought like, man, just being soft, but I mean, it was really an injury, and now I got a chance to just sit down and pick apart all these doctors. We figured it out, and I've been back to work this summer, and everything's back to even better than what it was. So Sixer fans are going to get somebody that's going to come in and play hard. I mean, I think I'm going to be that guy that's going to be able to create shots for himself and his teammates. I mean, that guy at the end of the game, when you need a bucket, you don't really have to call a play. I want it to be special, you know, when I come back, and I want to have people guessing. So, I mean, this is going to be good.
Thank you to the Players Tribune for that video. And you look at this young core. There you go. Sarge is on there in Philadelphia. Jackie, what do you expect? Because it's so hard to know. As he says only in that video, a lot of us still don't understand what the problem was. It's hard to know if that problem got fixed.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw the post that he did on social media over the course of the summer, but it was about mental health being no joke. And I think Fultz has made sure he's healthy physically. I think he's done something to take care of his mental well-being as well. And he's working on his shot. I think he's going to have a really big year. I think it's crazy for people to give up on this kid after, you say, one funky year that did involve physical health, mental health, and just a weird situation from him from the get-go, by the way, that was not helped by his own team.
It was a bizarre situation. It was definitely a mental component to it. If not the biggest component, might have been a mental component. What are we going to expect? I don't know. The player he describes is exactly what they need. A guy who can run the pick and roll and get into the lane and kick it out. That's exactly what the Sixers need. That's what that Boston series kind of exposed. They didn't have that dynamic. His shot looks better. It still looks a little like the release point is pretty low. It's not the same shot that he had in college. So we'll see. I hope that video proves to be like how it actually looks when they play.
And, I just want to pick up, Jackie, on what you said. He says in the video, oh, people didn't really understand what was going on, just saying I'm soft. This is what you have talked about so eloquently all summer, is that this language has to we just got to get away with it. And it's not because, oh, he can't handle it. You're just not talking about the same thing. There is a difference between, hey, he doesn't want to put in the work, he's not tough enough. That's kind of what soft is supposed to mean, right?
Soft to me is you won't take a charge.
Right, you won't, right.
Yeah.
That does not apply to, hey, I am dealing with some actual real medical issues. Those are different things.
Completely different things. Yeah, that's why I believe, I think the Sixers have done a really good job with Markelle Fultz. He's got a clean slate with them, and not all teams can afford to do that or are willing to do that. I think Brett Brown has made it his charge to invest in this young man and to spend time with him and to understand him. And that's why I think great things are going to happen for Markelle Fultz.
I hope so. That's the one through all of this mess and noise and confusion. The one constant was everybody in that organization says he is a wonderful kid.
Joel Embiid's best friend.
I was going to say, every teammate in that locker room stood up for him, which is the other thing that tells me he's not soft. He's clearly willing to do the work. He had some work and some obstacles to overcome, and he's trying to overcome them.